This is going to be one of my favorite videos I do this year. This is my NBA trade value rankings. If you're an NBA nerd like myself, this is going to be a lot of fun. We are going to get into the depths of a lot of players in the NBA. There are a ton of great players now in the NBA, and we're going to rank them in terms of their trade value. And I will get to what that means, how we're going to define that. Lots of other people have done that. Bill Simmons, we've all seen his trade value rankings. I feel like he kind of started it, but I'm going to do my own. We're going to go through the rules in a second. If you like this video, if you want to see future updates, I think I'm going to do updates probably twice a year. I will update these again in the off season. I'll also update these around this time every year, around the trade deadline. So if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Let's go through the rules really quick. And I'm going to base these off of, again, Bill Simmons, who I feel like kind of started this a long time ago, and kind of adapt them to what I believe they should be. First rule is salaries and age matter. That means contract is a factor, how young or how old you are is a factor. It's not just who are the best players, because if you have a very good 35-year-old, it's very different than a very good 25-year-old. So there is a difference. Salaries matter, age matters. The second rule I have, I'm just going to combine a bunch of these. Durability matters, off the court stuff matters, chemistry matters. If you have concerns that don't necessarily have to do with basketball, we have to factor those in. So whether that's you just can't stay on the court for one reason or another, that matters, because at the end of the day, the best availability is ability. So you have to be able to stay on the court. Rule number 3, real life trades are a good indicator, but they don't always tell the truth. Now, obviously, real life trades matter because at the end of the day, that's what their value is. But as we know, all these guys making the trades, they're human too. And this isn't just something we can put in a formula and get all the right answers. So we have to use it as an indicator, but we also have to recognize when teams overpay or when teams underpay, right? We can't say, okay, Luka doesn't have that much of a trade value because he only got traded for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first round pick. Or maybe Anthony Davis has a ton of trade value because of that. We have to take these as good data points, but they're not always the truth. So we have to consider that. Fourth rule is kind of the big one when you're looking at all these rankings. The trades happen in a vacuum. They don't necessarily have to do with team needs or team timeline or anything like that. Take, for example, a team like Memphis, who's pretty clearly going into a rebuild. Someone like Zach Edey, to them, is a good player, nice young player they want to build around. If, let's say, New York called up and said, hey, we're going to offer Mikal Bridges or OG Anunoby, whoever you want out of those two, for Zach Edey, Memphis would probably say no, because they don't need a player like an OG Anunoby, like a Mikal Bridges, who's more of a win now player. They need young players. And so for someone like Zach Edey, they're like, no, we'd rather have Zach Edey. Does that mean that Zach Edey has a higher trade value than those two? Maybe if you're a Zach Edey fan, maybe you say yes. Spoiler alert for my rankings. I have Zach Edey a little bit lower than those two, but that shows that we can't necessarily take team needs into consideration. We can't consider these just straight up swaps. Because yeah, if a lot of these players were being traded for each other, it would be a little different based on team needs, based on the timeline they're at. So you kind of have to think of these in a vacuum. How much is each player worth in a vacuum? And then rule number 5 is probably the most important. And that's, let's just have fun with this. There isn't any right answers to this. Now, yes, there are probably wrong answers if you want to go there, but there's no right answer. And so my opinion and my rankings are going to be slightly different than somebody else's rankings. You might say that, okay, this player should have been 10 spots higher, 10 spots lower. That is going to happen. And I guarantee you are not going to love my list. Maybe you do. And if so, then great. We're probably on the same page. You can subscribe, more videos to come. But you're probably going to disagree with something, and that's fine. If you strongly disagree, let me know down in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. If you think somebody is 50 spots higher or lower than I have them, then yeah, let's have a conversation. I'd love to hear where you're coming from, but this is all in fun. This is why I like doing these rankings instead of just player rankings. Who's the best player right now? Because that seems a little bit easier. Just who is playing the best right now. Doesn't matter age, contract, any of that. This is a little bit more abstract, and you could go lots of different ways with this. This is what I settled on. Took me a while to get there, and eventually I had to say, you know what? I have to stop here. I could keep going. So this is where I'm at. Let's just have fun with it, and let's do this. So with that, let's kick this off, because I have 133 players that I had. I'm not going to rank them all. I only ranked the top 85. I have those top 85 split into 23 tiers, similar to, guys like Bill Simmons who have done it. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each player. If so, this video would be like 2 hours long. I'm just going to kind of go through it. I'll give my thoughts on certain players, things like that. But yeah, we got to just go because this is going to be a very long video if we don't. Let's start with the players that didn't quite make it. And I'm going to just throw these out in different groups, not ranked at all. I have them in alphabetical order within each group. Just players that I had on my list that were in consideration. Let's start with the first group that missed it. I have this label, just get healthy first, and then we'll see. Anthony Davis, Kyrie, Sabonis, Trae Young, all self-explanatory. You could argue some of them have negative trade value. You could argue some of them should be on here. I just want to see you healthy first, and then we can kind of consider it. Next group is pretty big. I have them just labeled great role players. Jared Allen, a couple Thunder guys, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort, Josh Hart, Herb Jones, Jakob Poeltl, Naz Reid, Miles Turner, PJ Washington. A lot of great players. And there was a lot of players that I didn't rank, that didn't rank in the top 85, which is insane. And that just shows how deep the NBA is. I think this group is a good example. I had no idea where to put these two. So I just have Ja Morant and Joel Embiid in this group. Yeah, I have no idea. I think Ja Morant, I'm okay not having in the top 85. I don't think he has that much trade value right now. Joel Embiid, I genuinely don't know. And if you have strong thoughts on where he should be, let me know. He's playing great, but he also might just retire at the end of the year or not be able to play all of a sudden. So I don't really know where to put him. Don't think he has a ton of trade value. So I put him outside of the top 85. You can let me know if you disagree. Some good vets that didn't make it. Jimmy Butler would have had a conversation if he didn't get hurt. DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic, Andrew Wiggins. Some good vets, just didn't quite crack the top 85. And then I have a list of guys who are upcoming free agents. Tari Eason, Keon Ellis, Quentin Grimes, Ben Mathurin, Norman Powell, Kobe White, Mark Williams. You could argue that some of these guys should be on here. Tari Eason in particular, I really considered. I do have some impending free agents on my top 85. Some of these guys, I want to see what the contract is like first. So I just kind of put them off for now. Some of these guys might come on in the next update. Some young guys that I just want to see a little bit more. Bilal Coulibaly, Grady Dick, Scoot Henderson. I'll just say quickly, he looks really good. I'm recording this. He's only played like 3 games since he came back. If he can do that the rest of the year, he'll be in the top 85, but I want to see it first. Jaden Ivey, Jonathan Kuminga, Jared McCain, 3 guys that were traded. And then former number 1 pick Zachary Risache is in this group. The next group, I just have labeled the NBA is so deep, I can't believe they didn't make it. I have RJ Barrett, Keldon Johnson, Moses Moody, Onyeka Okongwu, Jabari Smith, Devin Vassell, Cason Wallace. A lot of just good players and a lot of players who are young, who are on decent contracts. And yet they still didn't make my top 85, which is just crazy to me. The NBA needs to expand. Please come back to Seattle. I will have lots of videos on expansion drafts. You can stay tuned for that. And then the last group that I'm going to say just missed my top 85. I had Jeremiah Fears, Keyshawn George, Jalen Green, AJ Mitchell, who I just took out right before this actually. Colin Murray Boyles, really wanted to put him in there. Isaiah Stewart, Asar Thompson, and Kel'el Ware. Again, all of these guys I'm kind of shocked didn't make it. Bunch of really young pieces. Yes, there's maybe some question marks, things like that, but they're really good. And I still couldn't get them in my top 85. Again, just insane how deep the NBA is. So with that, let's get to my top 85. As I said, I'm going to put them in tiers or in groups. Start at the bottom, start with 85. We'll get all the way up to my number 1 trade value guy as fast as we can. We'll see how long this goes. But let's start with Group W, which I'm going to call just great value pieces. And number 85, I have Yegor Demon, the young guard for Brooklyn. Number 84, I have Ryan Rollins. 83, Dyson Daniels. And 82, Toumani Camara of Portland. All of these guys I really like. I do have questions on if any of them are going to become like big pieces, but just based on their contract, based on their age. They're just good value. And I think you need that in today's NBA. And this is going to be a recurring theme across all of these groups. The NBA is a little bit different now that the second apron rules are here. So contract, they matter way more than they used to. Used to be, you could give a guy, a max contract, even if he wasn't great. That's fine. You could give a guy 20, 30 million, wasn't even close to the max, you're fine. But now with second apron rules, that matters. And so for all of these guys, some of them are on really small contracts. Even guys like Dyson Daniels, quite debated leaving off. I think he's struggled offensively this year, almost to the point where I'm kind of concerned. But at the contract he's at, he's a great defensive player. Kind of same thing with Toumani Camara. Another great defensive player at a good price. And you need those guys on your roster. So I think they just make the cut in my top 85. Next group, I have Group V. I'm calling this group not that long ago. They were traded for a lot. And I have number 81, Cameron Johnson. Number 80, Julius Randle. Number 79, Brandon Ingram. Number 78, Desmond Bane. And number 77, Rudy Gobert. I think it's pretty self-explanatory how all these guys fit in this group. I mean, Rudy Gobert, not that long ago, was traded for a huge package. Desmond Bane, just this offseason, was traded for a huge package. Brandon Ingram, he's been involved in a few different trades. Julius Randle was traded for Cat. Cam Johnson, also in a big trade this offseason. So all guys that are good players, contracts, maybe a little bit of a problem for some of them. And I don't think they are as valuable as the trades they were in. And that's why I was saying in the beginning, real life trades are a data point, but they're not the truth. Guys like Rudy Gobert, guys like Desmond Bane are good examples of that. They're good players. They have trade value, just probably not as much as they were traded for. And that's fine. They're good players in their own right. Group U, they're just more valuable to us. They're probably more valuable to their own team than they are on the trade market. Number 76, I have Keegan Murray. 75, Andrew Nembhard. 74, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. 73, Peyton Pritchard. 72, Dylan Brooks. 71, Walker Kessler. And number 70, Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon is a good example of this. He's been on Denver now for probably 5 years now. A good player on a good contract. He would fetch a decent amount if they ever wanted to trade him. But for what he does for Denver, that's more valuable than what they could get back. And I think a lot of these guys fit that. Are they the youngest players? No. Are they on the best of contracts? No. But they're good players on good contracts, and they are really needed on their teams. So I think all of these guys fit. Walker Kessler is one of the few impending free agents that I have. My guess is Utah brings him back, probably be on a decent number. So we'll see how he recovers from his shoulder injury, how that contract plays a factor in this next update. But he's a good player, and so I wanted to include him in the top 85. Group T, are you buying into the hype yet? I just have two players. They got added to my top 85 pretty recently, and that is number 69, Peyton Watson, and number 68, Anthony Black. I talked about both of them in a separate video when I talked about most improved players. You can go check that out if you want. Both of these guys have improved a lot, and to me, they are the most important players that improve. If you have questions on that, go watch the video that I made on it. But they've made huge strides. And in Peyton Watson's case, he's going to get paid now because of it. The question is, are you buying into the hype? Are these two guys that are ascending to great players? Or are they just decent players? You now have to kind of pay them a lot, and maybe they're not as valuable. I don't quite know yet, and that's fine. So I think they slot in right here. Arrow could be pointing up. We'll see. Come back for the next update. Maybe they're a lot higher. But I think they slot in right here, which I'm fine with. Group S. Who knows how long they'll play, but they're still valuable. And these are three guys that I didn't really know where to put. So we are going to put them all together, and you can decide. Maybe they should be a lot higher. Maybe they shouldn't be ranked, but they're going here. Of course, number 67 has to go to LeBron James. Number 66 is Kawhi Leonard, and number 65 just got traded is James Harden. All three of these guys are great. In really all three of these cases, they are all-time greats. They are historic. In each of their cases, I don't really know how much they're worth. We don't know how much longer they're going to play. LeBron literally could only play maybe one more year. Kawhi Leonard is playing amazing, being an underrated storyline of this year, but also kind of seems like a ticking time bomb. Don't know how long he's going to play. And then James Harden is also playing great. He's also 36. Who knows how much time he has left. And yet, they're all still playing good enough that I think they would fetch a decent amount if they were ever traded. And in James Harden's case, he did get traded, and he did get traded for a decent amount. So I think they slot in here. And this is where I think it was the fourth rule that I had is really important. Would a team like the Magic, would they trade Anthony Black for LeBron? Probably not. They don't really need LeBron, both stylistically and then just where they're at. Would the Lakers want Anthony back for LeBron? Maybe, but they also don't need a young guy. They need a guy who can compete right away. So that's where you kind of have to treat these in a vacuum. I think these three slot in okay right here, because I think all of these teams, if they were to trade them, and I get James Harden was traded, but if they were to be traded, I think all the guys below the teams would argue, probably not worth it. Even though like trading LeBron, trading Kawhi would be crazy. The guys below, probably not worth it, even though maybe it's close. Everybody else above, that's where teams would start saying, okay, well, he's our star, he's great, but is the value just too good to pass up? So I slotted them in here. You could argue they should be 10, 20 spots higher. They're kind of hard to pick. So I just threw them in right here. Group R, the intriguing young pieces. Number 64 is Zach Edey. 63, Matas Buzelis. 62, Derek Queen. 61, Reed Shepherd. 60, Donovan Clingan. And number 59, Ace Bailey. All six of these guys are really intriguing, hence the group name that I chose. And this is where it's fun to rank trade values. Because, yeah, could you imagine Matas Buzelis just being traded up straight up for LeBron? That seems kind of crazy. I mean, LeBron, one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. Matas Buzelis, really good player. Like him in Chicago. But it's crazy that they could be traded straight up for each other. Same value. That's what's fun about trade value rankings, is the young players who you don't quite know yet if they're going to turn out to be a star. They might. All of these guys I could see being big time players, but they're so young, their contract's great, that teams just want to wait and see. So I think that's really the case for a lot of these. Zach Edey's 23. He's the oldest guy in this group. A lot of these guys are 21. Ace Bailey is 19. Don't really know where these guys are going to end up in their careers, but they're young enough. They're intriguing enough. I think their respective teams hold on to them. Group Q, are you sure you want to take him? And then the second part of that is, are we sure we want to get rid of him? This is one of the more fascinating groups. And that's just two guys, number 58, LaMelo Ball, and number 57, Zion Williamson. Again, I like the name that I came up with it because I think it fits. For these two guys, if they were on the trade market, I'm not saying they are, but if they were, you would go around to teams and you're like, well, are you sure you want to trade for him? I mean, I see it, but also, are you really sure? Do you really want to go through this? But then I think you could say the other way, and you could go to the Pelicans, you could go to the Hornets, say, are you sure you want to trade him? Because the potential is still there. And I get Zion's 25, LaMelo's 24 now. I get that, they're not as young, they don't have all the potential, but still, it's still there. And I think especially for Zion, you watch a lot of his games and you're like, yeah, that's the Zion we think we could get. And so if you're the team, would you really want to trade that now? Hornets, would you really want to trade LaMelo? How the season has gone? I don't know. But then also, would you get a lot back? Because would teams want them? Would they want to deal with this risk? It's kind of 50-50. So I think they slot in here. They're talented enough. The potential is high enough that, yeah, I think you take this risk around this area. But I couldn't put them up any higher because of everything else that goes on. Some of the other rules we talked about, I think they fit for these two. Group P, second apron makes this a little bit harder. And a bunch of recognizable names in this group. Number 56, Pascal Siakam. 55, Karl-Anthony Towns. 54, Tyler Hero. 53, Bam Adebayo. And 52, Darius Garland. 5 good players. 5 all-stars. I believe they've all been all-stars at some point in their career. All kind of in their prime. Darius Garland a little bit younger, so I had him at the top. Pascal Siakam is the oldest. He's 31. But all good players. And all players that have been now paid and probably deservingly paid. But this is where the second apron starts to become a little bit of a factor. Because when players like this are taking up a decent amount of your cap, what does that mean for the rest of your team? And can you really compete? I'm not saying you can't. I think Towns on a really good New York Knicks team. Pascal Siakam just made the championship last year. So I'm not saying you can't make a finals if these guys are taking up a decent amount of your cap, but it's a little bit more of a hindrance. It's not like these guys are being paid half as much. They're being paid, and that's now a factor, and it's more of a factor. So they slot in maybe a little bit lower than you would expect. Still good players, still good assets, but a little bit lower just based on their contract. Group O, everyone wants these kind of role players. And number 51, I have Mikal Bridges. Number 50, OG Anunoby. Number 49, Michael Porter Jr. Number 48, Derek White. And 47, Jaren Jackson Jr. I said it with the group title. These are the type of players that would kind of fit in on every team. And I think because of that, they're easier to slot into a bunch of trades. I think that's a little bit different than, say, a Karl Anthony Towns, a Tyler Hero, who were in the last group. Those players are also good. And depending on what you're looking for, you might say they're better players than this group. But the 5 guys in this group just fit in pretty much every team. They are I don't want to call them role players because they are good players. And I think a lot of these guys have also been all-stars. But they don't necessarily command the ball. Michael Porter Jr., I get, is the number one option now. He can also slot in elsewhere. And I think you need players like this. Now, because they are highly coveted, they also got paid. And I think that's also a problem, which is why I have them a little bit lower. Second apron rules, all that. But they're good players and they will fit in everywhere. I think that increases their trade value. So I have them up a little bit higher. They're players every team wants. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a good example. Fits in nicely with Utah. Memphis got a decent package back. I think that would be the similar case for a lot of these guys. Group N, I'm not sure what we have yet, but I'd like to find out. And number 46, I have Jalen Suggs. 45, Shaedon Sharpe. 44, Josh Giddey. And 43, Cedric Coward. All guys in a similar age range. I know Cedric Coward just got drafted. He was a little bit older. But all guys within 22 to 24. And I don't really know what the end result is going to be for these 4. But I really want to find out. And I think it's different than some of the young guys we talked about in a few groups ago, where the last group was intriguing pieces just kind of in theory. Guys like Derek Queen, guys like Reed Shepherd, where you see a lot and you see a lot of potential, but it's a lot in theory. In theory, this could look great. Yes, we want to see it. It's intriguing. These guys have started to show that, oh yeah, they could be really good players. And I don't know what the ceiling is for all 4. Someone like a Jalen Suggs. Is he going to be, an all NBA type guard? Or is he just going to be a very good, starting guard on a really good team? Don't really know yet. Shaedon Sharpe. Could he be an all NBA guy? He could. He has all the tools. I'm not sure if we get there, but I'd like to find out. Same thing with Josh Giddey. Slow start to his career. Awkward fit with Oklahoma City. He's turned it around now in Chicago. I don't really know where it ends up, but again, I want to find out. And then Cedric Coward is the newest member of this group. I don't know if he's going to get to where we think he might go. But again, first year as a rookie, I'd like to find out. So I think these guys have more of a trade value than some more established guys because the potential's there and we're starting to see it. I just want to see it play out. So they fit in a little bit higher than some of the other young pieces. Group M, not sure where to put somebody when they are this good, but also 37. And I didn't really know what to call this group because it's just one player, and it's Kevin Durant. And I have him sliding in at 42, a little bit higher than LeBron, Kawhi, James Harden, who I had in a separate tier. I have him higher because I'm more confident he's going to play for at least a few more years. He's somebody that I could see playing into his 40s if he wanted to. And he's still good. Like, he's still really good. And so I don't care that he's 37. He's still an elite player. Is he, prime Durant? No, but still a really good player. And you'd have him for a few more years. And that's where the Rockets decided to trade for him. Yeah, he's old, but you're going to have him for a few years. And in those few years, he's going to be really good. So not really sure where, again, he would fit. Does he have more trade value than the guys I just named? Maybe not. If you want to slot him in a little bit lower, that's fine. But also, it's Kevin Durant, and one of the best players at a time of his career that, again, a little bit slower, maybe not as good, but still an impactful player. So we're going to slot him in here. If you think he should be higher or lower, let me know. Some of these players are weird to rank. He's one of them. He gets his own group. Group L, best players that you will probably ever see on the trade market. And number 41, I have Ivica Zubac. 40, Trey Murphy III. Number 39, Lauri Markkanen. And number 38, Jaden McDaniels. Zubac got traded. He got traded for a pretty nice package at this trade deadline. Other three guys were also in a lot of rumors. And I think this is the best players that you'll ever see on a trade market. That's not to say that everybody else above this is never going to get traded, but this is probably the best set of players that is just constantly in trade rumors. And you might think, well, okay, if they're so good, why are they constantly in trade rumors? Well, someone like a Trey Murphy. Pelicans maybe don't need him. Maybe they're continuing their rebuild. He's a little bit too old, but a really, really good player and only 25 years old. Same thing with Lauri Markkanen. Only 28 years old. You'd get a lot for him. I'm not saying Utah trades him, but he's been in rumors a lot. And then Jaden McDaniels was also floated a lot. Now, floated a lot for Giannis, I get. But still, these are very, very valuable players still in their prime. I mean, Trey Murphy and Jaden McDaniels still only 25 on good contracts, and they could all get better still. And I think that's the exciting part. And yet, they still all could get traded at some point in the near future. Not saying that will happen, but they could. So they all kind of fit together where they're good players, good assets, and yet the teams are considering trading them. Not saying that's a bad thing, just the reality. Group K, can you just have a big playoff moment first? And only two guys in this group. Number 37, De'Aaron Fox, and number 36, Austin Reeves. Reeves fits this probably more than De'Aaron Fox, but for both of them, they're really good lead guards. They've had very different careers up until this point, but very good lead guards, really good in the regular season. I just want to see it in the playoffs first. Like, I want to see your ability to be able to lead a team, be able to be an impact player in the playoffs. And both of these guys are going to get good opportunities this season. If they can do it, then great. I think they kind of move up. They're considered one of the better players in the league. I have just a little bit of concern that I had to drop them here because you can be great in the regular season. You can be an all-star. You can be up for all NBA, all of that. You're then going to get paid because of it. But if you don't make a difference come playoff time, that's a little bit tougher. And I'm not saying these guys can't. Reeves is only 27, De'Aaron Fox 28. They have time. I just want to see it in the playoffs first. We're getting up to the point. We're in the top 40 now. Tons of great players, tons of great assets. So I'm going to be a little bit particular. I love Austin Reeves. I'm a Lakers fan. Loved him ever since he was at Wichita State and then Oklahoma. I just want to see it in the playoffs first. I'm not anti-Austin Reeves. Just want to see it before we move up because we've got a lot of great players on this list. Group J, too young to give up now. Number 35, I have Brandon Miller. 34, I have Jalen Duren. 33, Keontae George. And number 32, Dylan Harper. Four really great players. Four players that are still really young. And yeah, they're just too young to give up now. Unless you're getting a really, really good piece, their teams are going to want to stick with them. Are they going to turn into all NBA guys? We'll see, but they have that potential and they're just too young to give up. Group I, are we sure they are number one guys? And number 31, I have Franz Wagner. Number 30, I have Paolo Banchero. 29, Scotty Barnes. And 28, Evan Mobley. Interesting group of guys here. And these are guys all kind of around the same age. They were in same draft classes in some cases. All good players. And I don't want to take anything away from them. And again, as I said before, we're now in the top group. So we have to be a little bit particular when we're dropping guys a little bit. In all four of these guys' cases, they've shown they can play. They've shown they're good players. They have now been paid because of that. The question is, are you a number one guy? Especially with where you were picked. Can you be a number one guy come playoff time? And I have questions about that for all four of them. Franz Wagner had probably the lowest amount of hype coming in. He's shown a lot, and a lot of people probably would have him above Paolo, his teammate. We'll talk about him in a second. So he comes in last. I probably have less concerns about him. He's just been hurt the last couple of years, so it's been tough. I'm going to skip Paolo because I have thoughts. Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, similar guys, and they are, well, they're different players and yet similar. They do it slightly differently, but I have similar concerns where it's like, okay, you're really good. You're really good at what you do. You fit in your role. Can you be a number one guy though? Like if we're going to pay you a lot, you're going to grow into this great player. Can you be a number one or at least a number two on a championship team? And I'm not saying they can't. I'm not saying they won't get there, or maybe they're there right now, but just a little bit of question. And so I have them a little bit lower. A lot of the guys we'll see soon have more potential, and I think have that higher ceiling than maybe these guys. There's just questions. And so Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, good players in their own right. Just some questions about their ceiling. And then that brings me to Paolo, who I have number 30. I am probably the biggest Paolo guy you can find. And that's not to say that I don't think he's struggled or anything like that. Has been a rough year. It's been a rough, really like 18 months for Paolo. He's only 23. He is still young. And he still does things that I don't really see many other players doing. And that is why I still just have, I don't want to say a sliver of hope. I have more hope than that. But that's why I'm still holding out hope for somebody this talented, this young, this big, just the athleticism he has, although it's been lacking. Hopefully that's not due to injury. So I'm still holding out hope. But I do get the concern. He is one of the lowest efficiency players this year. He's essentially turned into a gigantic shooting guard who can't shoot. And so I get that's a problem. But for all the reasons I said, due to his age, due to what we've seen him do in the past, this isn't like a guy who's just all what ifs, all the future, all the potential. We've seen him do it, and we've seen him do it in playoff series. We just haven't seen it in a little bit. And so because of that, I had to drop him a little bit. There are starting to be some pretty big long-term concerns that this is what he's going to be. But for now, I think he still fits in my top 30. I didn't want to drop him that lower. If you say that the Magic just have to dump him, he's not valuable anymore, that's fine. I'm still holding out hope. I still think with maybe a different coach, maybe even a different team, if it gets to that, I still think he has all NBA potential because we've seen it, just been a while. So I don't want to go too much lower. I get a lot of people are low on him, but he fits in at number 30. Group H, Houston, do we have a problem? And we have number 27, Amen Thompson, and 26, Alperen Sengun. It's been an interesting year for the Rockets, and specifically an interesting year for these two. And I had them both a decent amount higher in these rankings when I started. And I just kind of kept dropping them a little bit. And kind of like Paolo, I kind of stopped their fall because at the end of the day, they are also both only 23. We've also seen both of them do really, really good things in the past. So I don't want to overreact. But just like Paolo, there are starting to be concerns of what this ceiling is going to be for both of them. And both very different players, completely different players, really. And there's just concerns of how they're going to fit. Amen Thompson, obviously, is he going to be able to score? Is he going to be able to shoot? And if he never learns how to shoot, if he is never able to hit a three or really shoot from the outside, a la Ben Simmons, can he still be a very impactful player? And can he be one of the best players in the league despite that? I would say no. That's very, very hard thing to do. But he is really, really good at other things that if somebody was going to do it, it's probably going to be Amen Thompson. So still really high up, but we're starting to drop a little bit due to these concerns. And then same thing for Sengun. We've seen him be a really good player. And it's been a rough few months. It's been a rough year overall, I think, for him. Similar to Paolo, true shooting percentage is down, efficiency is down. So then the question is, okay, if you're not going to be a very efficient big, if you're not going to be a big defensive guy, huge rebound or anything like that, can you be a really good player? If you're going to be someone like a Jokic who just doesn't have the efficiency of Jokic, that's also a problem. And so the question is that Sengun, or is this just a rough few months? I have been leaning towards it's just a rough few months. I've also been higher on these guys than I think some. But we keep seeing it, and I keep being like, okay, well, as it continues, maybe this is going to be a problem. And when we start to get to the top 25, most of, if not all of these top 25 guys have either been a top guy, are a top guy now, or have the potential to be a top tier guy. And I'm talking like first team All NBA, second team All NBA. Şengün and Amen Thompson, I don't know what the ceiling is now. I still think it's there, but just concerned enough that we had to drop them a little bit. So they fall a little bit lower than some of these other young guys. And speaking of young guys, Group G, the sky is the limit. And I have 3 guys. Number 25, Alex Sarr. Number 24, VJ Edgecombe. And number 23, Stephon Castle. 3 young guys, 3 guys that I just love. These are 3 of my probably favorite players throughout the league. Alex Sarr, I think I'm higher on than most. I haven't seen a ton of hype on him, and I get he's in Washington. Washington's rebuilding, not playing for a lot. He's 20 years old, and I've seen him really take a jump this year. I think last year, okay, the thought was, in a weak draft, they got a good player, somebody at his size, can move, can protect the rim, can shoot a little bit. And you're like, okay, there's a good player in there. This year, I'm starting to see like, oh, this could be like a legit player for Washington. And as I said, this could be a player that ceiling wise, we're talking first team, second team All NBA. I think that could be the case for Alex Sarr. Now, is there a future? Is there a universe where he doesn't get there? Yeah, there's probably a lot. But I think showing that type of ceiling at this age is huge. So to me, he jumped a lot and a lot higher than I thought, but I had to get him up here. And I had to get him up here with 2 great two-way guards, VJ Edgecombe, great rookie, a little bit overshadowed by a couple other guys we'll talk about, but great rookie in his own right. And Stephon Castle, probably my top 5 guys in the NBA right now. If I could have a ton of Stephon Castles on my team, I'd be elated. I think he's an impactful player. He has his flaws, I get. You could argue Amen Thompson should be above him. I ended up flipping them for all the reasons we talked about with Amen Thompson. Castle makes winning plays. He is getting better, in my opinion, and he is going to be a big part of San Antonio's future. Yes, they have somebody else that is also a huge part, which we'll talk about. But Stephon Castle, if he can get to where he's going, will only continue rising these rankings. But falls 23rd for right now. Group F, good value or just friends with SGA? And number 22, I have Chet Holmgren. And number 21, Jalen Williams. Similar to Houston, similar to the duo I had with the Rockets, not a great year for both of these guys. And specifically for Jalen Williams. Chet, you could argue, at least is going to be a favorite or a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. The reason I say Chet, too, not a great year, is similar to, I think, Group I. Guys like Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, things like that. Chet, I think, is starting to fall in that group, where it's like, okay, really great player, could fit in nicely on a championship team, but are you ever going to be like a number 1 guy? And I think we're starting to see that's probably not Chet Holmgren, which is fine if he's an elite defender, could win Defensive Player of the Year at some point in his career. That's a good player, but then at some point there's going to be a cap. And I think that's where I've landed on Chet Holmgren. Jalen Williams, I just want to treat this as just a down year. He's been hurt. His wrists, all the way coming from last year, hasn't been the same. Now he's got a hamstring injury. I want to treat this like just the year after a championship season. It's just kind of a wash. I think that's the case. Now, you could argue, great player. Again, we're in the top almost 20 now. We're nitpicking, I get. Great player. But we're starting to realize SGA is a huge part of this team and probably a bigger part than we've given him credit for the last few years. Is Jalen Williams a big-time guy in his own right? Or is he just, yes, a nice complimentary piece for the Thunder? That's a question. And do I mean complimentary piece like just another guy? No, he's good. I get that. Still young too. But just questions. I just want to see it first. So he falls a little bit at 21. Group E, too young, too good, and too valuable. Number 20, I have Deni Avdija. Number 19, Jalen Johnson. And number 18, Kon Knueppel. You could almost say that the title for this group essentially describes each one. Kon Knueppel is too young. He's also too good. He's also too valuable. Jalen Johnson is just too good to give up on right now. He's had a huge leap. I talked about him in my most improved video. He's been great. some concerns on ceiling. I get, we won't talk about that here, but he's just been too good. And then Deni Avdija, just way too valuable. And if you're sitting here saying, well, why is Deni Avdija of all people number 20? Go back and look at the rules, because this isn't just best player, although you could argue Deni Avdija has been one of the 20 best players this year anyways. His contract just makes him a very valuable asset. And I don't know what the future is going to hold for Deni Avdija. I don't know what the future is going to hold for Portland. I don't know if Avdija is going to be the guy. He could be. He could just keep improving, and we're talking about a top 10 guy at that point. But at his age, still only 25, at his contract, that's a very, very valuable piece to have. To have a probably top 20 guy in the league at nothing close to top 20 contract is huge. And so just due to that alone, he gets into my top 20. Good player in his own right, but just way too valuable. So all three of these guys, too young, too good, too valuable. Group D, I don't care about the second apron. And this is where we're going to get to the level of player that second apron matters. We've talked about it a lot. I don't really care as much now when we get to a level of player that deserves it. And number 17, I have Jamal Murray. Number 16, Devin Booker. 15, Tyrese Halliburton. 14, Donovan Mitchell. 13, Jaylen Brown. And number 12, Jalen Brunson. This is where we get to the really great players. And they are being paid because of it. All of these guys on some big contracts. But at some point, I don't care. And that's something that no matter what the contract rules are, if you have a really, really good player, it's fine if they're being paid like a really, really good player. Because at the end of the day, yes, you need guys like Deni Avdija who have really good return on the contracts they're given. But at the end of the day, you need really, really good players. And if you have a really, really good player, you're probably going to be a really good team. And so contracts matter, yes. Is it a slight problem that they have big contracts? Maybe. And we'll see how all of these guys age and all of that. But for right now, you have to pay for really good players in most situations. And these are those players. And if you have one of them, you're probably a good team. Couple of guys I want to shout out. Jamal Murray would have been a lot lower, even just a year ago. I think he's shown enough that he deserves in this group. Halliburton, I'm just assuming his Achilles will come back and he will be most of the player he was. Yeah, if he's not, we'll drop him, but I'm not going to really consider that for now. And then Jaylen Brown at 13. I really wanted to put Jaylen Brown higher. I even considered him as a top 10 trade asset in these rankings because he's shown a ton. He has shown without Jason Tatum that he can be a number one guy, and he can be potentially the best two-way player in the league right now. Could make the case for a couple other guys, but he has shown a lot. And I talked about him in my most improved. He's gone from a really good player to an elite player, and that's tough to do sometimes. I almost put him in my top 10. I ended up going just a little bit outside of that. Some of the numbers you see of his on-off stuff, which is, again, not the best and not the best interpretation of players. But when it is becoming a pattern that the Celtics are usually better without him than with him, despite the Celtics being great with him, it's a weird thing because he's a great player and I don't want to undermine that. It's just kind of odd sometimes. You got to throw those out there, but I think he's one of the best players and one of the best assets. So 13 might seem high, but I think he fits. Group C, only a few more groups to go. They're the franchise, but ... Number 11, I have Steph Curry, and number 10, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. Two very different situations, but I think they both fit. When you think of the Warriors, you think of Steph Curry. When you think of the Bucks, at least now, you think of Giannis. They are the franchise icons. They are, for a lot of reasons, would be in this, probably the top group. Except Curry is 37. Now, you say, okay, well, why is Curry this high? Kevin Durant wasn't, Kawhi wasn't, LeBron wasn't. Steph is the one player that we have to take in a little bit more info. We can't just say the fact that, okay, he's 37, still a really good player, just like Kevin Durant has a few years to go. There's more to that. He has obviously stayed with Golden State his whole career. If he would ever be traded, which I would almost certainly say will never happen, but if he was to be traded, if he was to be put out on the market, you would have to pay a ton, not just for the player on the court, but for everything else. And so he is one of those players that I think just has a little bit extra. And because of that, he vaults into the third to last tier. Put in at number 11. Will he stay up there for a long time? No, he'll probably slowly come down. But I think he's up there. If he's ever going to be traded, it would be a ton. He's just not going to be traded. So one of those weird situations. And then Giannis at number 10. I had him higher. There's just starting to be some concerns when you talk about Giannis. One, he's 31. So this isn't like some of the guys we'll talk about in the last groups that are just in their prime. No really concerns about age. Giannis is now 31. He's now in his 30s. And if he stays healthy, yeah, he's still got a long ways to go. But when you're a player that has a play style like Giannis, when you're a player who's now in his 30s, and you're a player that has started to pick up a lot of injuries over the last few years, there's concerns. And so because of that, I think that's why we didn't see a Giannis trade this trade deadline. Now, I do think we will see a Giannis trade this offseason. That will be a big indicator of his value. We will adjust accordingly after that. But I think it is telling that just not every team was going after him. And again, we don't know the behind the scenes. Obviously, every team probably was going after him, but not going after him to the level we would expect like the top guys to be, the top 9 that I have. I think that it's telling that a lot of teams said, yeah, we would love Giannis, but hey, I don't think this player would be available. Yeah, we like Giannis. Wouldn't give up this player for him though. And you start going through the teams and you're like, well, at that point, is Giannis just not as valuable as we think? I don't think that's the case. And this is, again, where I go back to the rules, especially number 4. All of these trades are in a vacuum. Would the Hornets trade Con Knipple for Giannis? No. They would say, yep, yeah, we'll take Giannis. Con Knipple's off the board. Does that mean Con Knipple is higher value than Giannis? I wouldn't go that far. This is where these rankings can kind of get weird. Giannis, to me, is still very valuable, but it is telling that he just isn't an automatic trade for all of these teams. So he's at 10. He could jump back up if he gets healthy and goes to another team, or we could also see him drop a little bit. I think that's where we're at in the Giannis career. Group B only gets traded if you have Nico Harrison. And number 9, I have Tyrese Maxey. Number 8, I have Jason Tatum. And number 7, Luka Doncic. Now, you might say, okay, well, Luka only fits in this tier. He was traded because of Nico. I would guess, and obviously this is just me having some fun, all 3 of these guys, you could make the case Nico Harrison would trade. I could see Nico being like, hey, Tyrese Maxey, he's 25. He can score. He's one of the best young players in the league, but he is small. He doesn't play defense. I don't know if I really want to build around him. If you're making a case against Tyrese Maxey, that's the case. Jason Tatum, great player, who won us a championship, but he tore his Achilles. He's, going to get into his late 20s. We're not sure how he's going to recover. So let's trade him now. And then, of course, Luka. Nico traded him. All of that to say, yes, these 3 have maybe just a little bit of concern, but these are 3 of the best young players in the league. And I would still consider them young, or at least now in their prime. 3 great players. They are still ascending. And unless you're Nico Harrison, or unless you're somebody that really wants to nitpick, they're franchise guys and they are untradeable. Just enough that I bumped him down one group, but to me, they're all top 10 guys. You can debate that if you want, but I think that's pretty clear. And then that brings us to the last group, the completely untouchable group. And I have 6 guys in this group. Number 6, I have Cade Cunningham. Number 5, I have Anthony Edwards. Number 4, Cooper Flagg. Number 3, Nikola Jokic. Number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And number 1, Victor Wembanyama. Now, we can debate the order of the 6. And I'll spend a little bit of time giving you my reasoning. But I would be kind of surprised if you didn't have this top 6 in your trade value rankings. If you want to argue a Luka, sure. If you want to argue maybe a Tyrese Maxey, Jason Tatum if he's healthy, maybe even a Giannis if he gets healthy. But to me, this top 6 is pretty clear. These are the guys that are just untouchable. They are not getting traded. They are really not even being entertained. The order, to me, I'll give my reasoning pretty quickly. But Cade Cunningham, another one of my guys, loved him at Oklahoma State. I thought he was going to be a star. Didn't care that it took a little bit, but I was always on Cade Cunningham's bandwagon. He's a franchise guy, and I get stats efficiency might be a little bit lower, but he is asked to do stuff that only a few players could in this league. Because of maybe some of those question marks, I had him last. But again, we're nitpicking. We're in the top 6. They're all untouchable. Anthony Edwards to me would be a little bit higher. I think if Minnesota called up Detroit, or maybe we'll say the other way around, if Detroit called up Minnesota and said, hey, let's swap young players, Minnesota probably says no. I think Anthony Edwards has a little bit higher of a ceiling. You can debate that again. They're all in the top 6. Cooper Flagg at 4. Some of you might say, yeah, 4, put him at 1 for all we care. Others might say, well, okay, he's only 19. This is only his rookie year. Why is he up so high? I've been pretty staunchly on the side of Cooper Flagg. I was going to say being an all-time great player. I'll maybe go a little bit lower than that, but I've been pretty adamant that Cooper Flagg was going to be like a great player. And I said before his rookie year started, I would be more surprised if he was just a solid player than I was if he was an MVP. Like I thought he had a more chance of being an MVP than just being a solid pick, a solid number 1 pick. And a little bit shaky maybe to start, but he's turned into one of the best players already. We've only really seen one player like this at his age, and that was LeBron. And will he be LeBron? Will he have the career of LeBron? That's still probably a little bit of a reach. But the fact that we're talking about somebody who could legitimately follow the path and the career path of LeBron James, one of the best players, if not the best player in the whole league, that shows how good Cooper Flagg is. And so when you have that player, how young he is, how good he is already, you could make the case he should be number 1. I'm going to be a little bit conservative and put him at 4, but that's where I have him just a little bit ahead of Anthony Edwards and Cade. The top 3 have been probably the top 3 for the last year or two. I switched SGA and Jokic. Jokic has gotten hurt. I'm not really blaming him or penalizing him for that, but he is 30. And when SGA is 27, there's a few years difference. SGA is now the reigning MVP, won the championship. You can debate it, and I don't want to have the Jokic SGA debate right now. If you think Jokic should be second, that's fine. I think they are second and third for me. SGA, he just gets the nod just based on the last year he's had. And then Wemby's number 1. And unless probably Cooper Flagg, he's probably the only one that can rival him over the next year or so. Unless Cooper Flagg continues his ascension, he might overtake him. I think Wemby's going to be number 1 for a little bit. He has just shown more and more. He has stayed healthy for the most part. We've had some scares, but for the most part, he's been staying healthy. And he looks like a guy who can just terrorize the league. And the fact that he's only 22, he's only getting bigger, he's only getting stronger, he's only getting better. And I mean, he was a freak from when they drafted him, from when we all heard about him a few years ago. He's going to be the number 1 guy for a while. The Spurs aren't trading him, just point blank. Cooper Flagg, as I said, is the only guy who I think gets close. That'll be a fun debate if Cooper Flagg keeps ascending over the next couple of years. But for now, Wemby is my number 1 trade value guy. So there you have it. My 85 guys ranked NBA trade value rankings. As I said, I had 133 guys to start. If I missed somebody in the honorable mentions, I apologize. I tried to get as much and everybody in as I could. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have debates you want to have, put them down in the comments. The only thing I ask is just be respectful. Let's have a debate. If you don't think that, X player should be that high, or if you think X player should be higher, just put it in the comments and let's have the conversation. More than likely, I'll be like, yeah, that makes sense too. And as I said at the top, these are meant to be fun rankings. There's no right answer. If you think somebody is completely off, then sure, let's have the conversation. We probably disagree. But if you're saying like, oh yeah, 5 or 10 spots higher, lower, we can have the debate. Let's talk about it. I like talking players. So down in the comments, if you want, just please be respectful. I have a lot of fun with this. We should have fun debates. Keep it respectful, all of that. If you liked this content, if you like stuff like this, I'm going to continue to do more stuff in the NBA. As I mentioned, an expansion draft that will be coming. I made a video last year. I will make a video again this year of what it could look like. MLB trade value rankings, I mentioned, will come out probably some point before the MLB season. Lots of fun stuff like this. So if you're a sports fan, if you're a sports nerd like me who likes going in the weeds like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Lots of fun stuff coming. I'm just getting started. Again, as I said, I hope to put out updates to this twice a year so you can follow along for that. And yeah, there you have it. 133 players, 85 guys ranked. It was a lot of fun. If you want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time.